You said you help with people with burnout. Can you
Yes.
expand upon that?
Ooh, okay. Oh, you wake up in the morning, you're already tired. I'm like, man, you just slept.
Yep.
You wake up tired, you go to sleep tired, and it's this daily monotony 9 to 5 in your life, and you feel like you're losing your self-worth and the meaning of all these different things that are going on in your life. And you think that your potential is capped. But now here's the deal. Burnout is actually the best thing that could ever happen to you, because it's literally your body telling you that what you're going through right now and what you're doing right now ain't it. So something's got to change.
So money is all I think of. Money on my mind, 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 money on my mind. So money is all I think of.
All right. Money is on my mind indeed. Yes, everybody. This is your boy, Darrin Harvey, and I am your gracious host of Financial State of Minds. And this is a show where we help you get to that bag, manage that bag, and grow that bag as best as possible as we discuss business and financial literacy and everything to do with the almighty power of the dollar. And today you are listening to us on KGPC 96.9 FM, streaming right now on kgpc969.org and available on all streaming platforms of choice. And today we got a very special guest who I've been chasing for months now to get. Man's busy, making an impact on the community, our community, both African-American, blind, and beyond. We got AKA the twin, brother Tarik Williams is in the building. How you doing today, sir? How you doing?
Woo! Let's go. Let's go. What's up, Darrin? I'm excited to bring impact. You know, I don't know how much about finances we'll talk, but, you got to have a money. There's a mindset to making sure you're taking care of your money properly and getting to the bag, like you were saying. So, absolutely.
Absolutely. So you beat me to the punch. What is today's topic? We're going to talk about you, and we're going to talk about mindset, because as I've explored many times on the show, mindset is everything when it comes to finances, right? It's everything. Everyone knows an example of somebody that came from not the best situation and they got out. And we know people who came from all the advantages and they blew it. So I felt that it was important that someone like you, problem-solving coach, burnout coach, we're going to get into the burnout coach, mindset coach. I think you may have had a discussion or two about finances at some point, since that's the leading cause of stress, divorce, and all these negative statistics. So it may not be your focus, but you're a mindset guide, and we teach finance on the show. So I had to bring you in. So before I start with the good old mindset, I always ask my guests, who is Tarik Williams? Who is that?
Excellent question. So welcome. I am Tarik Williams, your one-stop shop for everything empowerment, leadership, burnout, breakthrough, coaching, consultant. And who I am, I put on my pants one leg at a time, just like everybody else. But when I think of the person who I am and what I want to give to the world, I just think of, once again, the word empowerment, right? My dream, my passion is to bring empowerment to myself, but also to others, to live a life they love. Because we often get the question, or people say, oh, are you a lover or are you a fighter? Well, let me ask you real quick, Darrin. I know this is your podcast and I'm going to come to a question with you, but let me ask you a question real quick, Darrin. Are you a lover or a fighter?
I'm a fighter.
Okay, interesting. All right, yeah. And I'm all about that, right? You got to fight for the things you want. There's no doubt about it. But let me tell you this. So I consider myself a lover, okay? But here's the deal. I think if you won't fight for your love, then are you actually a lover? You know what I mean? Right. And so it's a really interesting way to bring both of those together. So I'm really big on just living a life I love, because life is too short for anything else.
Absolutely. So I like to take it back, especially when I get my guests on for the first time. My audience is new to you. You're new to my audience. So let's give a little background. You don't have to share the Netflix series of your story,
yeah.
But let's give the trailer version of your story. So tell me a little bit of your story and how you got to the place of becoming the coach that you are today.
Yeah, great question. Well, West Philadelphia, born and
raised.
I'm
We could have kept
playing.
going.
No, so I am from Pennsylvania, though, about an hour or so outside of Philadelphia. And how I really got into the coaching space is because life will throw certain things at you, and certain things you may think that you're promised your entire life sometimes can get taken away from you. And that's happened to me a few times in my life. And one of them being my eyesight. At the age of 16, I just started losing eyesight, and we thought it was because I got hit in my eye playing basketball, getting ready for a AAU basketball tournament. And my right eye started changing, and there was no central vision in my right eye. And it was weird because I always wear glasses, but I could see basically fine, just like anybody else. And then 7 or 8 months later, we realized there was something more serious going on. And through some different genetic testing back and forth, the University of Pennsylvania Hospital, we realized that there was something more serious going on, not just getting hit in my eye. I had a genetic disorder that we had no idea that I had called Leber's hereditary optical neuropathy, LHON. And in that moment, it was nerve-wracking. I felt like my life and my dreams had been taken away from me. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you I had the mindset immediately that I have now in that moment. But after some reflecting, some learning more about the person that I am, I think I started realizing that my hardships and my difficulties don't have to define the person that I am. And I realized that a lot of times we let our hardships and our difficulties define us. And I was like, this is my gift to give to the world.
Absolutely. So you're already better than me on that, man. My heart has absolutely defined who I am. I'm not even going to lie about that. But I'm not mad at it because it's part of the reason why I created Financial State of Minds, because I've shared the story plenty of times on the show. But, you know, kind of the last straw was my dad passing away of Alzheimer's. I was managing $12,000 a month coming in, but I was still spending $16,000 because the care was so ridiculous. So that trauma is part what spearheaded me to leave legal sales and enter the world of personal finance and stuff like that. So there's a high level of respect for you because me and you on very similar missions, but we just have different perspectives on said mission, you know, and best believe before this episode, I consumed quite a few of your episodes. First off, you definitely have that motivational, like, energy that comes from it. You do a very good job of that. I want to try to steal that energy from you a little bit, and I am today on this episode, hyping it up a little bit more. But you just said something earlier. You didn't just wake up one day and go, oh, crap, I'm blind, but I'm still going to be positive. Yeah, it's a great life. So talk about some of that work you did so you can get to the point where you are today, where you can have 5 episodes, and it's all very high energy positivity coming out of it. How did you get to that space?
Yeah, you said a lot. I don't want to say I hate something that you said, but I'll say I strongly dislike it. But it's only because there are people in my life who have said, Tarik, you know, I can't really look at your podcast because it's too positive, Tarik. I can't watch. It's too positive. Toxic positivity. Okay. I tried not to get too emotional about that comment, but here's the deal. I don't really consider myself positive nor negative. I just consider my reality. You know what I mean? That's not positive or necessarily negative. There's a certain way I want to live my life. Let's just talk about negativity for a second. Like, what is negativity? Negativity is ultimately giving power to your limits, giving power to the things that can negatively affect your life, right? And I just choose to not give power to those things because, once again, like you mentioned your dad, right? Like, our life is too short to give power to the things that can negatively affect us. So I just choose to not give power to that. But with that being said, no, Tarik did not just wake up and say butterflies and rainbows. Absolutely not. I think I had a lot of great examples around me. My mom being a big one, immigrated from Trinidad and Tobago, and seeing her hardships that she went through and like kind of reflecting on those made me think, okay, I just lost some eyesight. I didn't have to go through having to leave a difficult relationship and trying to find a better life in America, right? I didn't have to go through that. I think reflecting on other people's hardships and reflecting on my own and really starting to recognize my power. I think also meeting other blind people was really helpful for me and seeing like, oh, like I'm a blind person that could use some improvement because this person has been blind their entire life and now they're at Harvard Law School. I'm like, I probably need to step it up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Right.
What it comes down to is this. I'm a really big words person. And you mentioned that your hardships define you. I want to frame what you said a little bit because sure. I don't believe that my hardships or my difficulties define me. However, they most definitely shape the person who I am. You know what I mean? Like
that's true.
They definitely shape me. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. And so letting them shape me in a way that, sure, I have some bruises. Sure, I have some scars. But recognizing that they have the ability to heal. And I think a lot of reflection, a lot of inner work, a lot of getting out in the community and meeting other blind people going through similar issues and just being around other people who nobody's life is perfect.
Right.
Right.
So it's funny because your answer was, well, I don't like the fact that you say, Darrin, I'm positive or my podcast is positive. This is just my reality. Well, yeah. I'm sure from one mindset coach to another mindset coach, your reality or your perception of reality dictates your reality. So that's why I'm sure you get the comments of the positivity because one thing we share is we're both blind. We both have lesser vision than the average person.
Yeah.
But the way we have taken is two different directions. And that's something that you personally helped me out on as recently as literally last week. You've helped me out with the perception of it. And that's so important. And that's a great segue to the finances. It's the same thing in finances. I agree with you. We all have different challenges. We all start at different, what I call levels. Because I'm a nerd, I'm going to refer to video games. Not everybody starts at level 1. Some people start at level 10. They get the advantages. Some people start at minus world, like literally like -1, because they just had disadvantages from birth. But we can't control that. My OCD is obsessed with what we can control. And what we can control is the mindset. So from one blind person to another blind person, I'm really curious to ask you this question.
Yes, sir.
When you're doing your work, how much was the thought of how am I going to be able to provide for myself and the people I care about come up into your mind?
Oh, all of it, right? Because immediately you start thinking the sacrifices and belief that other people had in me, I thought was null and void. So I was like, it's impossible. You know what I mean? I really thought that my ability to provide and be there for others was no longer a thing. And that's just the truth. I think it's all about recognition. So when you've done one thing or done multiple things one way in your life, and then for like 15, 16 years, then all of a sudden the world tells you, hey, you got to switch it up.
Right. Uh-huh. I relate.
It's an adjustment. Okay. It's an adjustment, but that's life. I think blindness though might be a bit more unique than most people, but life throws those things at everybody.
Right. And I feel that you do a great job just listening to your podcast. You do a great job of, and you do it better. I'll just be blunt. You do it better than me. Where I take blindness and I go, blindness is unique within the world of disability, right? It's unique in the sense of, I just blatantly say it. I think it's one of the tougher ones to deal with. And I feel that you do a good job of going, even though you may feel that way or not, everybody goes through their challenges. And that's something that even some of my other, what I call blind OGs tell me. It's like, yeah, Darrin, this is our challenge, but everyone has challenges basically. We're unique in the specific challenge that we face. We're not unique in the fact that we face a challenge.
Facts.
And tying this back to finances is, again, we all start in different levels. So I started in a situation in a family where finances were straight. They were good. They're straight. I got everything I wanted for Christmas. There was money in my account for college. I was very fortunate and blessed in my situation. So I want to personally ask you, and I do ask this question to a lot of my guests, growing up, what kind of did you learn or take away when it comes to finances or personal finances? What did you learn?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. When I think about what I learned, I would say it was very surface level. If you want to get money, you got to get a good job. If you want to get a good job, you have to go to school. If you want to go to school, get a good job and make money, you got to work hard. And then if you want to keep your money, spend it wisely. There weren't many conversations in my home about the importance and understanding of investing or how to build wealth or compound interest. And so for that, and learning about those things are things I had to learn later on in life and doing some independent study. But at home, not a lot of those more detailed, nuanced conversations on the growth of finances were really happening.
Got you. And that's pretty standard. That's pretty standard regardless of generation, background. That's still going on. That's still going on. So that's why I have my podcast, and what I do is to educate and make sure that those conversations are happening, because there are classes of people where that conversation is happening at 10, at 8, at 5, at 3. Those conversations are happening, and in other communities, they're not happening, and we can see some of the differences there.
For sure. And the other part of this, too, I don't want to just say it's an at-home issue. This isn't my opportunity to get on a soapbox and bash the education system. But I will kind of slightly go up this soapbox and say, I think education-wise, K through 12, we could do a better job of educating your kids to be able to understand these nuances.
Absolutely. And it's a fact, it's not taught in K through 12. I have my own conspiracy theories on why it is, which is, it's not really much of a conspiracy. It's just, the truth. It's the truth. The truth is that they want you to be an employee. They don't want you to be, it's not in the system's best interest to produce entrepreneurs. It's in their best interest to produce employees. So I tell this to people all the time, if they taught personal finance in school, I might be out of a job. Right? The whole reason why I can have this situation in the client base is because they weren't taught, which I don't agree with at all. It needs to be taught ASAP. It needs to be taught as soon as possible, because the thing about money is money touches everything. It's a money podcast, but money touches everything. So I can talk about anything on my show because it's affected by money. If he wants Tarik services, you're going to have to pay him money. Unless he wants to be generous and do it for free, you're going to have to cut him a check. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a reality, right? I didn't make the rules. This is the rules we were just born into. Now, switching gears a little bit, me and you both have a unique challenge because we're disabled, and our choice of disabled is blindness. It does affect our productivity. When you told me what you did, and I'm going to spoil it because I want you to say it on the show, when you told me what you did and how many different roles you currently are doing, I was very impressed. So I need the listeners to understand and hear you. What do you do? Literally, when it comes down to it, we know you're a coach, but you do a little bit more than that. So explain to the listeners not only what do you do, but kind of explain you don't have to go in detail, but how do you go about doing it?
Oh, wow. Well, that's a big question. What do I do? Great question. I'd love to tell you. So in one word, empowerment, but here's the long story. So I train working professionals and business owners to, once again, step into their power. But ultimately, how I do that is by meeting people where they're at. And so I do one-on-one coaching, and I do group coaching, and I do speaking engagements. And I also train staff at a Center for Blind People here in Arizona, Savvy Services for the Blind, SAAVI. And what we're doing, once again, in all those situations is meeting people where they're at, emotionally, mentally, to be able to really get the inner workings, understanding that everybody ends up where they are, but you don't know the path that they took to get there. And so genuine connection with people is a really big way to inspire and cultivate growth in multiple situations. I mean, we are generally social beings, even though some of us are introverted extroverts, but once again, the goal and the key to this is being able to meet people where they're at. And how this really officially started, I didn't think this was possible at first. When I was about 18, 19, 20 years old, I started teaching blind people how to travel independently as an orientation mobility instructor. And there was a time where blind people actually weren't able or allowed to get certified in orientation and mobility. That's actually a thing. Fun fact, you can look it up. Really? And I didn't think it was possible for me either, because I was like, I can't see. How am I going to teach somebody else to cross the street and navigate life? But once again, meeting other blind people and seeing what they were doing and just learning more about my abilities, I was like, oh, who better to teach than another blind person? Because they're doing the thing. Right. And so I realized that a lot of the things that I was telling those students and those blind individuals when I started teaching, I was like, oh, I would tell this to anybody. The working professionals going through burnout, the individuals who's trying to work towards their dream, because I don't believe in chasing dreams, and we can come back to that question if you like. But ultimately, how I do what I do is building connection emotionally and mentally, actually meeting somebody where they're at so that they can get to where they're going to go.
Got you. So you mentioned you just quickly mentioned it. You said you help with people with burnout. Can you expand upon that? Like burnout. What do you mean by burnout?
Ooh, okay. Oh, you wake up in the morning, you're already tired. I'm like, man, you just slept. Yep. You wake up in the morning, you're already tired. Going to the daily monotony of the 9 to 5 because you listen to Darrin's podcast and you know you got to find ways to make money, but you don't like where you're at. But the world has told you it has to happen this way, but yet you're tired. You're not doing the things you like, and it's an issue for you. Do you mind if I go down this rabbit hole a little bit?
Keep going.
Do you mind?
Going, keep going.
Excellent. So you're going through that, and you're tired. You wake up tired. You go to sleep tired. And it's this daily monotony 9 to 5 in your life, and you feel like you're losing your self-worth and the meaning of all these different things that are going on in your life. And you think that your potential is capped. But now here's the deal. Burnout is actually the best thing that could ever happen to you. Tarik, you're crazy, you're insane. Yes, I am, but let me tell you why I believe this. Because burnout is the best thing that could ever happen to you, because it's literally your body telling you that what you're going through right now and what you're doing right now ain't it. So something's got to change. So it's literally telling you to make a change. That's great, because your mental and your physical are telling you that your life has to change. Now you give Tarik a call to help you change it. Let's get it.
Absolutely. So let's keep going with that. So I give you a ring. As you know, I call it W-2 life up until 2020, 2021. And my vision got to a point where it was really difficult for me to do that. But if I knew you were there around 2014 to 2020, you would have got a call, because I was in sales. And sales is probably the #1 industry when it comes to burnout. It is so stressful, so demanding. It's really difficult. Yes, you can make a lot of money. I do push it when you don't have a degree and you want to make a lot of money. But it is freaking stressful. So, one, have you helped people when it comes to their jobs and careers when it comes to burnout? And two, what does that look like?
Absolutely. And I'm going to give you an answer you're probably not going to like, because I'm going to repeat a little bit of what I just said.
Sure.
Darrin, what working with you on that situation would look like is there's a 99.9% chance that it's different from the person listening. Because once again, all of our experiences in life are so different. You know, you might be going through burnout, but you actually love your job.
Right.
So how does that make sense? Great question. I'd love to tell you. It makes sense because you haven't set any boundaries with your workplace. You're clocking in at 5 a.m. and you're not really clocking out until 12 a.m. and your best friends had a party and your other friends were playing basketball and your other friends met on a Zoom chat and they were playing video games, but you didn't make time for it because you felt like you had to work. So what it could look like for somebody is a boundary. So what does it look to help somebody work through that? That's just one example. For other people, it could be a trauma that they've gone through. For somebody else, I mean, well, trauma is a whole other big conversation that all traumas are different. Going through blindness when it's unexpected is a trauma, right? So I think to answer your question, but I'll probably not answer it the way that you want me to answer it. So if you have a follow-up, please let me know. It's got to be very specific to the person. So my first meeting with somebody, I'm just getting to know you.
Right.
And then I'll like look at my notes from the conversation. And then from there, I'm like, okay, we might have to go down a few of these avenues here to figure out where the point is, the inner point where we might have to take a look at, oh, there's something more here that we need to navigate. And a lot of times it is setting a boundary, but it might not be the boundary you think you have to set.
Got it. So I hear you, and I agree with you for the most part, but there's a question, and I'm sure you may know where it's coming from. Tarik, I hear you, it's boundaries, but I got bills to pay. Tarik, that sounds cool, but you's in Arizona. I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area. I can't afford to not work 50 hours, 2 jobs, high-stress job. How do you expect me to put a boundary on that?
Ooh, yeah, Tarik, it sounds good, right?
Yeah,
what you're saying, it sounds cool, Tarik. How do I put a boundary on it? You know, I want to go back to this word love, right? They say that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. You know, depending on what that is, there's some truth to that. I will tell you that people who tell you that you have to set a boundary, and they say it's about balance, you have to understand what balance really is. And balance isn't always 50-50. So, for example, in a relationship, if you think it's 50-50, you have lost, okay? It has to be 100-100. However, there are some days I got to show up 120 because the other can only show up 80. I only got 20 today. I only got 20% today. So I need my partner to bring in the other 180, you know? Those things happen. So I bring that up to say, if you got to work and you got to dream, there might come a time where there might be a grind there for a certain amount of time, longer than you expected. But understand that you're working towards a specific goal and you got to work towards it, if it's financial stability or what have you, so that you can eventually get knowledge and get to a place where you could maybe come back down to a place where you're living a life that you can settle into.
Love it. Love it. And you're absolutely right. You got to love yourself, or at least appreciate yourself, appreciate your worth. Or what I would say from a financial coach's point of view, you have to understand and your value. And I've told this story before, but I joke around and say this. Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, but Tarik, if some company were to understand my disability, my situation, and they give me a big enough check, this is a hobby now, bye-bye, I'm going to go do that job. But those opportunities are so few, far between, at least in my experience, that I had to create the opportunity. And it was one of the best decisions I've made in my life because I do love what I do. And putting 8 to 16 hours a day into what I do is different from doing 8 to 16 hours in sales. It is absolutely different. So I see where the saying comes from. You also mentioned something earlier. You said, well, if you got a dream, well, you made a comment even before that. I believe you said you don't like the phrase chase your dreams.
Absolutely not.
So expand upon that. Because I say, hey, if you dream big, you kind of got to be a dreamer to be an entrepreneur, honestly, in my opinion. You kind of got to be a dreamer. So I'm missing the disconnect. So explain for us.
I'm sorry. It's really funny. I get a lot of, I shouldn't say pushback, but confusion when I say something like that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a little bit of a story, okay?
Sure.
So I'm in my master's program for counseling and guidance and orientation and mobility in Ruston, Louisiana, all right? Very small town. It says late December, and it's almost holiday break. But my grandmother's birthday is December 21st, and she was turning 80. And I'm like, I got to get there. Broke college student, but I got to get there. Let me take a look at flights. So I hop on the computer. My computer's talking to me, all that stuff, right? Non-visual techniques. For those people who don't know, say a quick aside, Jobs Accessible with Speech, JAWS, it's a software for Windows computers. That's how blind people use the computer. All right, end of the commercial, back to your regular scheduled programming. So navigating the internet, and I'm looking at flights to get to Trinidad and Tobago to see my grandmother, who basically raised me because my parents were at work. And I'm looking at flights, and a round trip ticket from Monroe Airport, a pretty small airport, was about $1,400.
Ooh, okay.
Tarik doesn't have that money.
Right.
But I had a moment. I took a deep breath. How am I going to figure this out? Because that's not going to work. How do I problem solve through this to make this work? And the answer is no, I didn't go rob a bank. I kept looking.
My guess was wrong.
I kept looking. And then I started thinking, okay, no matter what, I got to connect through Houston. Let's see if I just flew direct from Houston. Okay, that's reasonable, like a few hundred. All right. Okay, let's look at buses. The flight was on Saturday at 1 p.m. Let's look at early Saturday morning buses. Nothing that would get me there on time. Okay, keep looking. Greyhound 5 p.m. on Friday afternoon gets me to Houston, Texas, Greyhound station at 2 a.m. All right, that's the most financial that I can do. I can make that happen. Done. Without even thinking about it, because I knew the goal and that was where I wanted to get to. And that's just what I had to do. And so at 5 p.m. on Friday, I found my way to the Greyhound bus station in Ruston, Louisiana, and there was a few stops in between. At 2 a.m., I get to the Houston airport. It's cold. I'm blind. All right. But I just figured it out. All right. I'm navigating my way. And then I'm in the Greyhound station at 2 a.m. I'm like, all right, well, what do I do now? My flight's not until 1 p.m. in the afternoon. Right. And so I basically keep to myself a little bit. I find a little corner store area, get a little bit of food, and I don't talk to nobody. And just to put this out there, being at a downtown Greyhound station at 2 a.m. and overnight, 10 out of 10 would not recommend.
Right.
But I wasn't thinking about any of those things. I was just thinking about the goal, was getting to the person that raised me and who was there for me, walking me to the bus stop as a kid, to her 80th birthday party. So once it turned like 5, 6, 7 a.m., I took public bus Houston to get to the airport and found my way over there. And eventually got to Trinidad at like 11, 12 p.m. Saturday night. Why do I bring up that story? To answer your question, why you should not chase your dreams. Great question. I'd love to tell you. Here's the deal. You should never chase your dreams. See, the language that we use is so important. Now, I really highly don't agree with chasing your dreams, because when you chase your dreams, you're implying that your dreams are running away from you. My dreams are not a game of tag. My dreams are not running away from me. My dreams are just waiting for me to put in the work. So going to visit my grandmother for her birthday, who I hadn't seen in years at that point, had nothing to do with that running away from me. There was just more work I had to do to get there, which is fine. That dream was always there. It just required a bit more work than I was anticipating. So your dreams are not running away from you. You're not chasing your dreams. Your dreams are just waiting for you. So I'm always working towards the dream. It's my dream. So who's to say it's running away from me?
I have to sit on that one. I need 5 seconds to process that, guys. All right,
Don't chase your dreams. They're just waiting. They're literally, because your dream hasn't moved.
Right.
It's always been in your heart.
Right.
It's always been in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
It's just sitting there waiting.
Right.
When's Darrin going to put in the work to get there? When's Tarik going to put in the work to get there? When's Ashley going to put in the work there? When's John going to put in the work to get there?
Yeah.
Because it hasn't moved.
Man, I'm sitting here because I need to hear that. I can see that you're an English major. I can see that because your intent and what's the word I'm looking for? It's like you're so meticulous with the words you say and the intent behind it. You're able to frame things in such I'll be framed better light, since you don't like positive. I'm sorry, Tarik, it's positive. But better light. It's better light because I understand where you're coming from. I'm going to steal that. I love it because it's true.
It's in the keynote, so.
It's true. It's true what you say and how you frame it. Dreams, your goals or your dreams are not run away from you. They're there. They're there. You just got to go put in the work. And that's absolutely true. And it's so relatable to financial security and independence.
Mm-hmm.
What I hope to show, and I'm sure it's the same way for you or similar to you, is literally anybody can be financially secure. Anybody can be financially independent. It doesn't matter if you're African American. It doesn't matter if you're blind. It doesn't matter if you're both. It doesn't matter if you're Latino. It doesn't matter if you're deaf. You can get to it. And I loved how you frame it. It's there. But I think it's so important that you did frame it like that because we're double jeopardy, black and blind, double jeopardy. So we have a lot going against us just naturally. And this is why I need someone like you on my platform. That mindset is so important because if you have a different mindset than what you have, a more different outlook, more maybe negative outlook, because you have that outlook, you're not even going to put in the effort. You just don't believe in it. You just don't believe in it. You don't believe that you could have made that trip. Heck, I don't know if I could have believed that I could have made that trip that you just explained in your story. I might have just given up, or we'll definitely say the average person may have given up.
Yeah.
But by just having that tweak in mind frame or mindset, it allows you the belief to go out and give it a try. And one thing my thing is important is you need to at least give it a try, no matter who you are.
At least.
Don't use the excuse of your disadvantage. Notice I said disadvantage, not disability.
Yeah.
Disadvantage. Because everybody has a disadvantage.
Everybody.
Not everybody has a disability, but everybody has a disadvantage.
Well, that's why, and we can get into race a little bit, and that, that's a whole other conversation, right? But everybody has something like what you're saying.
Right.
The double jeopardy thing. What's the idea of not getting to Trinidad for my grandmother? Like the idea, like there was no part of me that thought I wasn't going to make it. Even when I saw $1,400, $1,500, whatever it was, like my brain didn't allow me to think, like it didn't compute. Okay.
Right.
Next. How are we doing it? You know what I mean?
Right. But that's so important because I don't want to get too much into the race or whatever, but we'll say not race, let's say culture, right?
Love
culture,
it.
Which is influenced by ethnicity and race,
yeah,
will dictate a certain mindset. You had a mindset to go, I'm not going to let anything stop me. Period. I'm not going to let it stop me. Period. You could have said.
Full stop.
Yeah. You could have said, because of ABC, I can't do it. That's why I respect you so much. And I respect myself, but I respect you so much because that's your mindset and you have every reason to not have it. And I listened to your episode about your sister. And as somebody who's lost his brother, I lost my mother to cancer. I'm not sure if you knew that. I lost my mother to cancer and I lost a sibling to suicide. You can have every reason to use that excuse. I listened to another episode of yours where your licensed therapist talked about trauma and how some people are not ready to get off
the roundabout.
The roundabout. Mm-hmm. Don't make me tick your intro theme. This is dang near a promotion for you, but I love it so much because it's needed. It's needed. There's people like me who's going to be like, all right, you can do it. I use a little bit of therapy techniques, a little bit of counseling techniques. for the understanding. But ultimately, I'm going to say, here's the strategy. You can do it. I really don't want to hear that many excuses. I'm not the person to be giving excuses. I'll be here to understand, but I'm not the guy to want to hear excuses, because I don't want a usually non-disabled, fully functioning person to tell me they can't go out and get a second job looking dead at me. I don't want to hear it, because it's just a reality. They have that advantage and we do not. And me and you are going around doing multiple jobs with our disadvantage. I challenge people and I commend people like you, and it's not to down them. It's just the reality. But I'm going to now here's the question.
Well, can I just jump in there for a moment? Because you hit on some really good things, and I agree with you, but I just want to add a little bit of a wrinkle.
Sure.
Invisible disabilities do exist.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so that's also an area where people don't know what's going on. You have people who are neurodivergent and all those different types of things that are out there. And there's other work that those individuals may have to do to get the work. But once again, those things exist and they got to work towards their goals just like anybody else. It just might look different than anybody else. But there's a certain where we all come together on this and where we all have to work towards it is that there's a mindset piece.
Right.
And that's where the common ground truly is. Like, do you have a mindset that says, oh, my hardships are going to stop me? Or do you have a mindset that says my hardships are going to shape me to continue moving? They're just lessons I have to learn to get to where I need to be.
Right.
I have another guide I'd love to share with you and your audience, the Money Mindset Guide. Yes, you're underpaid. Money Mindset Guide. Mm-hmm. And really what that guide goes through is not necessarily the hands-on like financial piece. It really talks about the mindset it takes to believe that you can actually make more money at the 9-to-5 or go somewhere else to make the money that you want to make. So I'd love to share it with you, and you could do whatever you like with it. And I think I used to sell it. I'm not exactly sure, but we'll give it to you and your audience for free.
Appreciate it.
And so what that looks like, once again, is the mindset piece. That's a common ground. Everybody has something going on.
Right. Everybody has something going on. So have you ever had clients where, okay, well, let me roll it back a little bit. In finance, particularly the client base that I currently have right now, it's a lot of, I'll just be blunt. It's a lot of entitlement. I'm going to ask you a question, but hold it for a little bit. There's a lot of entitlement. So the entitlement is because I worked, or I can even agree, I worked hard, I deserve this. Because I worked hard, I deserve this. I don't want to work harder because I've already worked hard, or I don't want to work in a different way because I've already worked hard. One, I know we're two different coaches in two different industries, but we still coach. Have you faced that with your clients where they're just, I don't want to say complaining, but they're like, we'll use the word pushing back. I'm telling them one thing and they're like, Darrin, we're hearing you, but I already worked hard. So I'm entitled to the vacation. I'm entitled to the Jordans. I'm entitled to the PS5 Pro that costs $700.
Yeah.
Is that something that you kind of deal with in your coaching or not really?
Oh, 100%.
Got it. Because me is money, right? So what I tell people, and most of my clients are fully able-bodied. So usually it's two things. They don't manage their money well, so they're blowing it all. So they simply just need to not spend in a certain category. Or they just don't make enough money. So I have to tell them, you got to go get a second job. And the amount of pushback of, well, I already work 40 hours, I already have a full-time job, or like I just said earlier, I worked hard, so I'm entitled to the $700 PlayStation Pro. It's probably the most frustrating aspect of coaching. So I'm curious how it looks for you in your world, and how do you help people with that?
Let me tell you a story.
Sure. I'm getting, oh man, 3 stories in one episode. I'm doing something right.
So I'll never forget. I was probably like maybe 8 or 9 years old. And at this, for whatever reason, my grandmother wasn't there. My mother worked at a nursing home. And at this point in time in school, things for the most part came pretty easy to me, getting hundreds on the test, studying here and there, but doing well in school. Okay. For whatever reason, I had to go to where my mom was working. and I had to stay there for a little bit, maybe waiting for a ride or whatever it was. I don't really remember that part. But I remember seeing my mom at a moment where she had to go work with some of her elderly patients and take care of them and like make sure that they were clean and all these different things and lifting up patients and doing all these different things to be able to take care of them and make money, right? In that moment, like I thought when like kind of doing some reading or doing a little bit of studying but not really things that's coming easy and getting hunches. I thought that was working hard because I was getting the results that I wanted. And some of the split moments where I noticed my mother having to clean her nursing home patients and a lot of the work that she had to do in there, I had to take a step back and realize that I really didn't know what it meant to work hard. So that's the first step of this conversation here. People don't really know what hard work is, Darrin. And we have to redefine sometimes what hard work is, because as soon as you think you know what hard work is, you got to push a little bit harder to get to where you want to be.
Facts.
See, if you're not a lifelong learner, if you don't believe in like continued improvement, then at some point you're just going to get stagnant. And so that's the first step to all this. Defining truly what it means to work hard. The second part of this is when I'm talking to somebody and we're trying to define what hard work is and recognizing all that. Actually, real quick, I want to hear your words again. Can you repeat the question one more time? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so you answered the first part. So we have clients where in finances, I need them to work harder. But they have this entitlement of, because I worked hard already, I deserve this. You actually technically answered both questions. The first question was, do you experience it? And two, how do you help clients through that?
So here's number two. Here's what people need to realize. Here's what I do believe. I believe that everybody who's living deserves all the great things in the world. Nobody's better than anybody else. You deserve it all. However, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you earn.
Facts.
I truly believe in that quote. You don't get what you deserve, you get what you earn. So if you are quote unquote entitled to something, sure, so am I. Right. But if I didn't go out there and earn it, then what are we talking about here?
Right.
Somebody who has it did something, or somebody did for them to get to where they are. Fine. Maybe somebody didn't do it for you. Maybe you got to work a bit harder than somebody else did.
Right.
Because here's the deal. It all comes down to sacrifice. Time, energy, work, money, investing, whatever. So hear how I told you a lot of things, but there's the quote, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you earn.
Right.
But here's the finale to the quote, all right? It's about sacrifice. So here's the deal. You either sacrifice to get to the dream, or you sacrifice getting the dream.
Oh, man, I'm still in that one, too. Man, you good with these quotes. Say that again for the listeners.
Sacrifice the dream, sacrifice for the dream, or sacrifice the dream.
I love that. I'm still in that.
It's a choice. It's a choice.
I'm still in that one too. So I'm still in it because it's very similar to what I say. So what I say, because when I'm doing business consulting, I generally help people who have never done business and they want to start for the first time. So, and this is part of just general coaching. It also ties to finance. People say that they want things, right? So wants and needs is very important in finances. Needs are your rent, food, insurance. If you got kids, it's daycare. Wants is everything else, basically, minus a few things. It's everything else. You have to know in finance what's a need and what's a want. Once you figure that out, then you have to know how much your money is going to needs and how much money is going to wants. Like I said earlier, half the people I work with, they just spend too much on wants. The other half generally is just they don't make enough money. And I understand no one likes working at McDonald's. No one likes working, very few people like working most traditional W-2 jobs. They don't like doing it. So they don't like it. And then they want a reward for doing something they don't like. I completely get it. But what I tell people is, if you want something bad enough, that means you have to be willing to do what it takes, all of it. You don't get to pick it, right? So you just said it earlier. Someone who's a freaking 100 millionaire, they sacrificed a whole lot to get there. They didn't pick it, right? They didn't go, oh, I'm a 100 millionaire and I just want to sacrifice 20 hours of family time, not 60 hours, right? It doesn't work like that. If you want something, you have to do everything that's required to get whatever that goal or that reward is. That's what you have to. If you don't want it bad enough, then you're not going to be willing to do it. To me, it's that simple. It's that simple. I love the way you phrased it, though, because it is so true. Like, you're going to sacrifice getting to your dream, or you're going to sacrifice the dream.
Let's get it.
And it's to me, it's simple in the sense of it's that simple.
Darrin, I'm a simple guy, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a simple man.
It's that, and I am too. It's that simple. It's just, and I'm sure you kind of experience this, sometimes as a coach, is a lot of the challenges is that, one, you're telling people something that they've never heard before. Two, it's coming from us. We're a unique messenger, so they're going to have to accept it. But three, they don't like hearing it. They don't like it. You said it a couple times on this episode. Your audience may not like what I have to hear. I feel like sometimes successful people are the people who go, man, I don't like what I just heard, but it's the truth, so I got to take it. Take it. Go ahead.
Anybody listening to this podcast and thinking that this isn't a financial conversation, I think you're missing the boat a little bit, because once again, there's a mindset involved. So I encourage you to listen back and think about your current situation. And if your situation needs improvement, think about the mindset it takes to put some improvement into place.
Absolutely. And I'll just be direct. This is absolutely a financial mindset conversation. And I'll take myself for an example. I've mentioned many times, and you know more than I'm going to share on the show, I got a quite sizable inheritance. Trust me, that inheritance did not just fall in my lap, and I didn't pay no cost. I paid a hell of a cost to get that inheritance. There's so many people who would have been through what I've been through and just go, oh, I got all that money. I'm going to, as some of my favorite hip hop music would say, I'm going to F up the commas. Like, I'm going to blow it all. I'm going to blow it all away. But it's not what I chose to do, because I really appreciate and value what it took. So one thing that popped in my head, and listeners, when Tarik was going and saying, you have not earned it, you may have been going, well, Darrin, there's some spoiled kid somewhere where he was just born and he gets $20 million. He gets $10 million. Listener, I hear where you're coming from, but guess what? He may have not earned it directly, but his father or mother or family put into work so that he didn't have to. And that's why I preach what I preach, because the whole goal is your son or daughter doesn't have to work as hard as you did. You need to give, at least in my opinion, you want to give the next generation the advantage that you never had.
You never judge somebody for where they are because you don't know what they had to do or what they had to go through to get there.
Exactly. And a lot of people need to really let that sink in, because there's a lot of judgment. Honestly, it's to the point where it's culturally acceptable, right? It's acceptable in our culture. Oh my God, this guy has $1 billion and he has no real problems, and I would wish to be in his situation. And I tell people all the time, as somebody who doesn't have $1 billion, but I do have a good amount of money lying around, some of these problems you don't want. Like, sometimes I miss the broke people problems, because the non-broke people problems, it comes with challenges, and then you face the situation, which I believe you talked about in one of your episodes I'm referring to again, which is where you don't allow yourself to acknowledge that's a problem. You don't allow yourself to acknowledge that it is a trauma, that it is a issue, that you do have feelings. You hold it in because you compare yourself and you go, well, crap, like, I only have these problems because I have this blessing, so I can't complain about it. when you absolutely have the right to complain about it, to deal with it, to feel a certain way, which is what Brother Tarik over here has helped me realize last week. But anyways, man, I would love to keep this going, but yeah, man, we are a little bit over on time, but this episode was great. We're going to have to come back for a part 2 because, one, you make my podcast way better by just being on it and bringing that energy, and it pumps me up. But 2, people need to hear this discussion from us. One thing I do believe in is modeling. I kind of mentioned it before, but I believe modeling, man. It's one thing to hear some of these conversations from people from a certain situation, and it's a different thing to have this conversation being talked about by people with a different situation. And I just think, and I'm not saying one is not needed and the other one is, I'm saying they're both needed. So we definitely need to continue this conversation in a part 2, or we may have to just jump on something else. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to wrap it up. So before I let you go, where can people find you?
So it's not just about me. It's about we. So we are Vision of Hope on Instagram. We are visionofhope.com. We are Vision of Hope YouTube, Speak Your Vision podcast on all platforms. We haven't put one out in a while, but a lot of good information on there. We are Vision of Hope on everything. And I'll share with everybody. I'll send it over to you, Darrin. The Yes, You're Underpaid, the Money Mindset Guide. And I'll share that with you for free to your listeners and everybody. And that's where you can find me.
Absolutely, Tarik. I really appreciate you jumping on the show, and I really had fun with this conversation. Definitely, listeners, watch out. He's going to be back. I have to force him. I have to strangle him. I have to fly out to Arizona. I have to make sure he's back for a part 2, or maybe that might be the way I have to revive his show, but that's for a different conversation. But anyways, thank you again. This has been Financial State of Minds, joined here by Tarik Williams, special guest, and this is the show where we've helped you get to that bag, manage that bag, and grow that bag as best as possible as we discuss business, financial literacy, and anything, everything to do with the power of dollar, which definitely includes mindset, you guys. Absolutely. So again, brother, you take care. You enjoy the rest of the day, and God bless to you. Keep doing what you're doing. Definitely support it. Listeners, please go follow him. His podcast was amazing. I knocked out like 4 or 5 of them when I had an absolute joy. I already have another episode queued up. And again, you guys, the discussion with the listeners, please comment, please share with everybody who needs to hear this and everybody who doesn't need to hear this, and share this podcast around people. So again, Tarik, thank you again. And that is it.
Thank you so much for creating an amazing space, Darrin. Thank you.